Sunrise.
Pikmin 4. Ah yes, it has been a minute since I have said that title. At one point in this channel's history, all we used to talk about was Pikmin 4. But things are different now, so we are bringing it back. Yes, finally, something Pikmin related that isn't flipping Hey Pikmin is on the Nintendo Switch. Who would have thought? And I know some people are kind of annoyed because it's only Pikmin 3, not the entire trilogy, or maybe you're just annoyed because it isn't Pikmin 4. But you gotta admit, this was a Wii U port done well, man. And it seems like every new Wii U port is getting better and better. I mean, have you seen 3D World plus Bowser's Fury? That game looks insane. So does that mean when Wind Waker HD comes out, they're gonna add even more content and make it even better than 3D World plus Bowser's Fury? But Pikmin fans, I know you are annoyed because it has been 5 years since Miyamoto said Pikmin 4 is nearly complete. And since then, it's been radio silence. But I think good news is approaching, and it is all thanks to Pikmin 3 Deluxe's sales numbers. At first, it all seemed doom and gloom. It was selling slower than the original in most parts of the world, which is very bad if you compare the install base of the two consoles, even if it is just a port. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer that it would sell better on the Switch than the Wii U. But then Japan comes in and saves the day. It was the best-selling game for that week over a lot of big titles, and it may not seem like a big deal, but it is Pikmin we are talking about here. But then even better news comes out. Pikmin 3 Deluxe is now the best-selling Pikmin game in Japan, period. Compared to the UK where it's like the worst selling game. But you can't blame me, alright? I forced all my friends to buy this game. I bought like 50 copies myself, alright? But my friends, even more news has came in. The news we have been waiting for. The entire sales figures for the game as a whole. And I'm pleased to say that it has outsold the Wii U version. And I know it doesn't sound that impressive because it is the Wii U we're talking about here and it hasn't sold that much more. But what did they expect, bro? I literally said in my previous videos, if they only bring over Pikmin 3, it isn't going to sell that well because people who want to get into the Pikmin franchise, and by the way, I've spoken to a lot of people who want to get into the Pikmin franchise but don't want to start on Pikmin 3. It makes a lot of sense. You don't start on the third entry in the series. So if they brought the entire trilogy over, it would have sold way better because people would be like, oh, this is 3 games in one package. I really did want to try Pikmin, so now's a perfect time to try it because all the games are in one big package. You don't just bring over a third entry in this series, man. It doesn't make any sense. If it was called Pikmin something else, then maybe, but with just the number 3 being there, that puts people off, man. Trust me. They don't want to start on a third entry in the series. But I'm just blabbering at this point. What does this mean for Pikmin 4? Does this game still even exist? The last we heard of it was in September 2015. It is approaching 6 years since we have last heard anything about Pikmin 4. If I was to make a wild guess, I'd say this game is going to be revealed in at least 2022. It will definitely be on the Nintendo Switch. It'll be wild if they brought it over to the next Nintendo system. There's no way in hell they would do that. It's going to be one of those games that they bring out towards the end of the Switch's life when there isn't many games left, so it can sort of fill in a gap, if you know what I mean. I know people think that Nintendo just halted on Pikmin 4 just to release a port, which requires way less effort just to see how it performs, and then if it doesn't sell well, they're just going to think, yeah, forget it, people don't care about Pikmin, let's just not bother making a 4th entry in the series. And that will not happen, alright? What I think did happen was that they were in the middle of developing the game, they might have been close to finishing it, and then they thought, you know what? We want this game to be way better, way bigger than it actually is, so we're just going to restart development entirely. Kind of similar to what they're doing with Metroid Prime 4. They just thought it wasn't holding up to what they wanted it to be, so they restarted it entirely, and then they released Pikmin 3 Deluxe just to sort of tide us over until Pikmin 4 does eventually come out. Don't think Nintendo is going to give up on this franchise. Even if they release a game every 5 to 6 years, I still think they're going to keep bringing Pikmin out because there is a fan base for it. Even if it does sell a few million units, I still think they're going to push for this game, and I think that it does have potential. I believe in this franchise. I do think that if they push Pikmin 4, make it truly a game changer on the Nintendo Switch, a system that's selling very well, unlike the Wii U, I do think it will sell well, and I do think more people will get into the Pikmin franchise. I mean, if you think about it, Pikmin's kind of cursed in a way. It started out on the GameCube where it had the first 2 releases, and obviously the GameCube didn't sell that well, unfortunately. Yes, they were brought over to the Wii, but then again, they were ports. Not many people were interested in them, to be honest with you. And then Pikmin 3 was on the Wii U. Again, it didn't sell that well, unfortunately. But now we're on the Nintendo Switch. It's sold 80 million units. It's breaking records, which is insane. Pikmin 4 needs to sell well on this system, man. It needs to do well. I have faith in this franchise. And as long as they make it a very good game, a game changer, as long as they don't release it around the time of huge games like the Sinnoh remakes, Breath of the Wild 2, so it isn't getting overshadowed, I think this game will do well. I have faith in this franchise, people.
Sunrise.